What's up, Laker fans? Welcome to Greatest Lakers Games, where today we celebrate a legendary performance by the most dominant physical presence to ever play the game, the one and only Shaquille O'Neal. The 2001 Lakers tore through the Western Conference playoffs, sweeping every series and winning the average game by 15 points. As defending champs and winners of 19 straight, the Lakers were the favorites going into the finals, but Allen Iverson and the Philadelphia 76ers presented a different challenge. Iverson led the NBA in scoring this season, and his speed and explosiveness kept him one step ahead of the Lakers in Game 1. Philly knew they didn't have the advantage in a half-court setting with Shaq on the floor, so they pressured Lakers guards full court and forced 19 turnovers. They had superb defensive players at every position, with Defensive Player of the Year Dikembe Mutombo protecting the rim. Philly got the overtime win in Game 1 as Iverson capped off a 48-point night. With the next 3 games scheduled in Philadelphia, the Lakers quickly found themselves facing a must-win situation in Game 2, and Shaq responded with a performance for the ages. This possession begins with Shaq near the left elbow, but a quick ball reversal reveals that this is a decoy for where they really want to get him the ball, which is on the right low block. But Mutombo doesn't give up this ground without a fight, knowing that Shaq is nearly automatic if he catches the ball near the basket and gets chest to shoulder with him around the free throw line. So now Shaq has to dislodge him from his position with a combination of technique and brute strength. Watch Shaq's left arm here. He gets it underneath Mutombo's elbow and swings up when the defender's post base is at its weakest, because his right foot is crossed in front of his left. Shaq then seals this advantage with a skip step, hopping off of his right foot and then landing on it again before his left foot comes down. Mutombo's no longer directly between Shaq and the basket, but is now sealed on his right shoulder instead. Kobe makes an excellent post-entry pass that leads Shaq toward the basket, while Shaq shows off his fundamentals by catching and turning toward the hoop in one motion. He was so big that defenders needed to lean on him to hold their ground, so when he spun off of them, they would often fall forward and double over the way that Mutombo does here. The play is essentially over at this point, and Shaq softly banks it in before Mutombo can recover. So defenders would try to beat him to his spot on these weak to strong flashes, but Shaq had a lethal counter to that should be very familiar to Laker fans who remember those days. He starts walking Todd McCullough down into the post, who already has his hands on him to impede his progress. As Matt Geiger checks him on the cut, Shaq spins off of the weight that McCullough is putting on him, which has the same effect it had on Mutombo. And he's not going to win these aerial battles against Shaq even under the best of circumstances. The fact that McCullough and Geiger were on the court together at all is indicative of Shaq's dominance. Both were relatively slow-footed fives who weren't usually part of the same lineup, but Shaq's 44-point and 20-rebound performance in Game 1 caused Sixers coach Larry Brown to go with bigger lineups throughout Game 2. So Phil Jackson countered with Robert Horry's speed and three-point shooting against these lineups. Shaq knew that he could exploit that with perhaps the most underrated part of his game, his passing. McCullough bites on this ball fake and sags into Shaq's lap, so Horry takes a rhythm dribble and begins to step into his shot, prompting McCullough to close out. This was a setup by Horry to get McCullough's momentum going forward, so he makes the post-entry pass to Shaq and immediately cuts to the basket. Shaq is on the same page with him and hits him with a nice bounce pass for the layup. This two-man game between Shaq and Horry had Philly's bigger lineups off balance throughout Game 2, highlighting Shaq's abilities as a playmaker when defenses devoted too much attention to him. Shaq wouldn't always directly get an assist on these plays, but oftentimes it would cause a chain reaction that would lead to a good look, as defenses tried to scramble and recover back to their man after the double team. Shaq was the hub of the Lakers' half-court offense and had a deep understanding of defensive coverages and how to beat them. Knowing that the defense often wanted to double-team him, Shaq did a lot of his work before they had a chance to. He looked to attack Philly by establishing deep post position on rim runs, because those are usually going to be single coverage situations before the defense gets set. Mutombo realizes that he has to sprint to get in front of Shaq on this play, but he can't get both of his feet underneath him until he's in the restricted area. This is when Shaq would use his hips, elbows, and shoulders to devastating effect. Mutombo does everything correctly to absorb this strike, with his legs behind him to create leverage and initiating contact with his chest and stomach. But Shaq still generates enough force to rock him back, so Mutombo is forced to reach in and foul him on the arm to prevent the easy basket. This was a common occurrence, where Shaq would punish single coverages or late double teams, and defenders would have to wrap him up or else they'd give up an easy bucket. The Lakers were in the bonus before the 6-minute mark in both the first and fourth quarters in this game, in large part due to the frequency that Shaq did this. But Shaq was more than just a bruising presence, and he won possessions with his shot making even when defenses were able to keep him away from the basket. He could shoot his jump hook over either shoulder and had range out to about 15 feet, with many of these shots being contested and on the move. While Shaq thrived as the center of the defense's attention, he was even more devastating when he wasn't. And that combined with his finishing to make him one of the best dump-off options in the history of the game. Kobe grabs this rebound and advances up the left sideline. And it's basically a 2-on-5 situation, Shaq and Kobe against the entire Philly team. But even though they're outnumbered, Kobe still notices the opportunity. Aaron McKie hasn't sealed off the sideline like he's supposed to, so Kobe presses the issue and drives, forcing McKie to turn his hips. That makes him vulnerable to a spin move, and after Kobe spins middle, all of a sudden it's a 2-on-1 between Kobe, Shaq, and Mutombo. That forces Mutombo to come over to stop Kobe from scoring at the rim, and that leaves Shaq open for the dump-off pass. Kobe's shot creation and ability to put pressure on the rim combined with Shaq's dominance to create problems that the defense often couldn't solve. This was central to the Lakers' ability to beat the press that gave them problems in Game 1. The attention that Kobe drew often led to opportunities for Shaq on the offensive boards, where again he combined his strength with technique. When defenders would try to box Shaq out, he would put his forearm on their back and lean on them. Think about how hard it would be to jump when that happens. So he was great at getting offensive rebounds even when he didn't have inside position, and could double and triple jump to secure the ball, which isn't something that most really big guys can do. Philly playing so many big men that weren't a perimeter threat allowed Shaq to hang out around the rim, and he blocked 8 shots in this game, tying an NBA Finals record at the time. That allowed Lakers perimeter defenders to be more aggressive in pressuring the ball, knowing that they had help behind them. But what set Shaq apart in these scenarios was his ability to help and recover. Here he steps over to wall off McKie's penetration, but he's also quick enough to recover back to McCullough when the dump-off pass is made. Sometimes Shaq would swat these into the crowd, but most of the time he did a great job of keeping them in play. That often gave him the opportunity to show off his outlet passing, where he was one of the best in the game at hitting teammates who were streaking up the court. But Shaq picked up his 5th foul early in the 4th quarter diving for a loose ball, and was forced to go to the bench. Philly responded by going on a run that was sparked by their ball pressure, forcing a pair of turnovers that got Shaq back off of the bench, but that didn't stop the run. And a drive and dish to Mutombo cut the lead to 3 after it had been double digits for much of the second half. But Shaq put the game away with a pair of huge plays down the stretch. He got his final assist of the night by hitting Derek Fisher out of a double team. And then iced it with a jump hook over Mutombo. The Sixers had missed their chance to go up 2-0 with the next 3 games in Philadelphia, thanks to one of the greatest performances in NBA Finals history. The Lakers took control of the series from there, winning 4 straight to close it out in 5. Shaq averaged 29 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks over the course of this series, securing Finals MVP and the second of his 3 straight championships with the Lakers. There's no player in NBA history quite like Shaq, the most dominant player to ever do it.